Elena Martinez had always prided herself on her intuition. 23 years of marriage to David had taught her to read the subtle signs, the way he avoided eye contact during dinner, how he suddenly became protective of his phone, the unfamiliar perfume that clung to his shirts despite his claims of working late. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. Standing in the doorway of their bedroom, Elena watched her husband of over 2 decades locked in an intimate embrace with a woman she didn't recognize. The stranger was younger, with auburn hair cascading over bare shoulders, her fingers tracing patterns on David's chest as they whispered to each other like teenagers discovering love for the first time. The floorboard creaked under Elena's weight. David's head snapped up, his face cycling through surprise, guilt, and finally settling on defiance. The woman turned slowly, her green eyes meeting Elena's with an expression that seemed almost relieved. Elena, David stammered, not bothering to cover himself or push away from his companion. I didn't expect you back so early. Clearly, Elena's voice was steady, controlled. I finished the conference early. Lucky me. The woman, she couldn't be more than 30, sat up straighter, pulling the sheet around herself. David, you said she wouldn't be home until tomorrow. Plans change, Victoria, Elena said, addressing the woman directly. Just like marriages, apparently. David finally found his voice, standing and reaching for his robe. Elena, let me explain. Explain what? That you're having an affair? That's fairly obvious. Elena moved to the window, gazing out at their manicured garden where they'd planned to grow old together. What I'm curious about is whether Victoria here knows about your little problem with gambling debts, or the fact that you've been embezzling from our joint accounts to pay them off. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria's face drained of color, and David's confident demeanor crumbled like a house of cards in a hurricane. Elena turned back to them, a small smile playing at her lips. Oh yes, David, I know everything. The question is, does she?
Victoria's hand flew to her throat, fingers fumbling with a delicate gold necklace. What is she talking about, David? Gambling debts? David's jaw tightened. Elena's just trying to manipulate the situation. She can't handle that I've found someone who actually appreciates me. Elena laughed softly, the sound cutting through the tension like a blade. Appreciates you? Victoria, darling, as David told you about his weekend trips to Atlantic City, the $50,000 he borrowed against our house last month. That's a lie. David stepped forward, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Is it? Elena pulled out her phone, scrolling through screenshots. I have bank statements, David, credit card receipts from casinos, text messages from loan sharks who've been very creative in their payment demands. She looked up at Victoria, whose green eyes had grown wide with shock. But here's what's really interesting. Victoria Chen, age 29, employed by Meridian Financial Solutions. Victoria's face went ashen. How do you know your real name? Your employer, the fact that Meridian is currently investigating David's company for potential acquisition? Elena sat gracefully in the antique chair by their bedroom window. I'm the senior partner at Harrison & Associates, Victoria. We specialize in corporate intelligence. It's amazing what you can discover when your husband starts acting suspiciously. David's confident facade cracked completely. Elena, you don't understand what you're interfering with. Oh, but I do. Victoria works for the firm that's been circling David's struggling tech company like vultures. She's been feeding them inside information about his business practices, his debt situation, his vulnerabilities. Elena's eyes moved between them. The affair was just a convenient cover, wasn't it, Victoria? Get close to the wife, gain access to the house, maybe peek at some private financial documents? Victoria's composure shattered. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. David, you said your marriage was already over, that she wouldn't care. Because he needed you to believe that, just like he needed to believe you actually cared about him. But you're both being played, and neither of you realizes it yet. David sank onto the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Elena's smile turned predatory. Tell me, Victoria, who exactly hired you to get close to my husband? Because it wasn't Meridian Financial. I checked. The color drained from Victoria's face completely, and for the first time, genuine fear flickered in her eyes.
Victoria's hands trembled as she clutched the bedsheet tighter. "Elena, please, you don't understand the whole situation." "Then explain it to me." Elena's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to extracting truth from reluctant witnesses. "Start with who's really paying your bills, because Meridian Financial has never heard of you." David looked up sharply. "What? Victoria, you said you worked for them. You showed me business cards." "Anyone can print business cards, David." Elena opened her phone again. "I called Meridian this morning. No Victoria Chen on their payroll. No Victoria Chen has ever worked for them." She studied the younger woman with clinical precision. "But there is a warrant out for Victoria Castellanos, your real name, I assume, for fraud and identity theft in 3 states. Victoria's mask finally slipped completely. Gone was the vulnerable young woman caught in an awkward situation. In her place sat someone harder, more calculating. "You clever bitch, I underestimated you." "Most people do." Elena remained perfectly composed. "Now who hired you? Because this elaborate setup, gaining David's trust, accessing our home, positioning yourself to steal financial information, this isn't amateur hour." David stood abruptly, his face red with humiliation and rage. "You're a criminal? I've been sleeping with a criminal?" "Oh, David, don't act so innocent." Victoria's voice turned cold. "You think I approached you randomly? Your gambling debts made you perfect bait. My employer knew exactly how desperate you were, how easily you'd fall for a pretty face offering sympathy about your cold, controlling wife." Elena felt a stab of hurt at the description, but kept her expression neutral. "Your employer? Let me guess. Marcus Webb?" The shock on Victoria's face confirmed Elena's suspicion. David looked between them, confused. "Who's Marcus Webb?" "David's former business partner," Elena explained. "The one who tried to steal David's software patents 5 years ago. The one who swore revenge when we sued him successfully." She stood, moving closer to Victoria. "Marcus couldn't get to David's company legally, so he found another way. Create a honey trap, compromise David emotionally and financially, then use the affair as leverage." Victoria laughed bitterly. "You're clever. Marcus gave you for credit for. He thought you were just another corporate wife, too busy with charity lunches to notice your husband's indiscretions. Marcus always was a poor judge of character. Fortunately for me, you've just confessed to conspiracy, fraud, and extortion. All recorded, of course." David stared at the device in horror. "Elena, what are you doing?" "Protecting our future, David, something you clearly forgot how to do." Elena's calm demeanor finally showed cracks of genuine emotion. "Did you really think I'd let Marcus Webb destroy everything we built together? Did you think I'd stand by while you threw away 23 years for someone who was using you?" Victoria lunged for the recording device, but Elena smoothly stepped aside, her years of self-defense classes paying off. "I wouldn't, if I were you. This is only one copy." "You can't prove anything!" Victoria's composure completely shattered now, desperation replacing her earlier calculated charm. "It's my word against yours." "Actually, it's your word against the FBI's." Elena smiled at Victoria's shocked expression. "Did you really think I'd handle this alone? I've been feeding information to federal investigators for weeks. Your fake identities, Marcus Webb's money laundering operation, the pattern of corporate espionage." She looked directly at David. "I was hoping to resolve this quietly, to protect you from the worst of it. But then I came home early today." David slumped back onto the bed, the weight of realization crushing him. "Federal investigators? Elena, what have you done?" "What I had to do to save your company and our marriage, though I'm beginning to question whether either is worth saving." Elena's voice carried 23 years of accumulated hurt. "Did you ever love me, David? Or were you always this weak, this easily manipulated?" "That's not fair." "Fair?"
Elena's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. "You want to talk about fair? I've spent months watching you destroy yourself, following you to casinos, documenting your lies, trying to figure out how to help you. And all the while you are here with her, planning to betray everything we built together." Victoria stood abruptly, still wrapped in the sheet. "This is touching, really, but I'm leaving." "No, you're not." Elena's voice turned ice cold. "Sit down, Victoria. The FBI will be here in exactly 12 minutes. I sent them a text when I walked in the door." The room fell silent, except for the sound of David's labored breathing. Victoria slowly sat back down, her defiance replaced by trapped animal fear. 12 minutes? David whispered. "I told you, David. I know everything. I've known about the affair for 3 weeks. I've been monitoring Victoria's real activities, tracking the money flow from Marcus Webb, documenting everything." She looked directly at the window, watching for the unmarked cars she knew were already positioning themselves around our neighborhood. "I was hoping, God help me, I actually hoped that you'd come to your senses before it went this far." Victoria's voice was barely audible. "What happens now?" "Now, you pay for what you've done. Marcus Webb's operation is finished. David's company will survive, though under new management. And our marriage, well, that's something we'll have to discuss after the handcuffs come off." The sound of car doors slamming echoed from outside.
6 months later, Elena sat in her redesigned home office, sunlight streaming through windows that no longer felt like barriers but like possibilities. The federal case had concluded swiftly. Victoria Castellanos received 5 years for fraud and conspiracy, while Marcus Webb faced a decade behind bars for his elaborate corporate espionage scheme. David had avoided prison time by cooperating fully with investigators, but their marriage hadn't survived the revelations. The divorce had been swift and surprisingly amicable, perhaps because David finally understood the magnitude of Elena's sacrifice in protecting him. A soft knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Her assistant, James, appeared with his usual morning coffee and gentle smile. "The final papers came through. Harrison and Associates is officially yours alone now." Elena accepted the documents with steady hands. Taking full control of the company felt right. She'd been the driving force behind its success for years anyway. "Any word from David?" "He called yesterday. The new software company is doing well in Seattle. He wanted me to tell you thank you. Again." Elena nodded thoughtfully. David's fresh start had been necessary for both of them. The distance helped her heal while giving him space to rebuild his life without the constant reminder of his betrayals. A soft knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. "There is something else," James continued, his cheeks slightly pink. "I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner tonight. Nothing business-related, just dinner." Elena looked up at him. Really looked. James had been her assistant for 3 years, quietly efficient, unfailingly kind, and apparently harboring feelings he'd been too professional to express while she was married. He was younger than her by several years, but his emotional maturity far exceeded David's. "I'd like that," she said softly, surprised by how much she meant it. "Really?" His smile could have powered the entire building. "Really? But James, yes? Let's take it slowly. I'm still learning how to trust again." "As slowly as you need," he assured her. "I've waited this long." That evening, as Elena prepared for her first date in over 20 years, she caught her reflection in the bedroom mirror. The same mirror where she discovered David's betrayal. But instead of seeing a victim of betrayal, she saw a woman who had taken control of her life, who had chosen justice over revenge, growth over bitterness. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. "Looking forward to tonight. Thank you for giving us a chance." Elena smiled, applying lipstick with hands that no longer trembled with anxiety, but steady with newfound confidence. She had learned that sometimes the end of one story was simply the beginning of something better. The woman in the mirror smiled back. Not the woman she had been, but the woman she had chosen to become.